I love them so much. Hi you guys! Welcome back to another episode of Hobbies and Chat. If you're new here, my name is Jessica. I started this series to test out new hobbies to see what sparks joy. In this episode, we'll be testing out coloring techniques that I usually see on pen and paper or marker, but I'll be testing them out on my iPad through digital art. We'll see how well they translate over, but one of my favorite hobbies I picked up this past year was coloring on my iPad. I don't need to purchase any additional materials. I have my Apple Pencil, I have my apps, I have my coloring pages that I usually pull from Pinterest. So I've been just downloading images and applying them to my app. The app I'll be using today is called Sketchbook. It's similar to like Procreate, but it's free on the App Store, and I find that it's really easy to use. There's a wide variety of colors you can choose from. They have the color picker, and I'll be showing you guys how I color on my iPad so that it's much faster and easier. So the first thing I did for this coloring page is that I went on CocoWyo's website. They have a whole page full of free pages that you can download to color. You'll have to enter in your email in the website to download the image file. Once you have that file, it'll end up in your photos. You'll go into the Sketchbook app and upload the image as a new page. I have completed like a good amount of coloring pages. I love just base coloring. I haven't really added a lot of effects or techniques. So I'm going to show you guys some of the pages that I've done myself, and I really do love coloring on my iPad. It's very therapeutic. It allows me to reconnect with art, which is something I feel like I've lost. So it's been really exciting to do. I'm going to be trying out a couple of coloring techniques that are different from just base coloring. So I'm going to try glitter, patchwork, tree textures, and stone. But I'm really happy that I have this page that has a lot of different elements that I can try and incorporate the coloring techniques into. This page that we'll be coloring today is called 7 Types of Rest. So I'm going to be coloring these pages and discussing some of the ways that I relate to the different types of rest and how I apply them to my life. If you see me looking down, I have my iPad here so I can follow along with you guys, but I'll have a screen recording set up so you can really see clearly what I'm doing. So the first thing I'm going to do for this page is retitle the base coloring layer as CocoWyo. And then I'm going to create a new layer coming off that layer, and I'm going to rename it line work. This step is really important for when you're coloring digitally. So this just allows all the colors to stay within the lines, essentially. It's kind of like when you're coloring out the lines, like it doesn't really look good. So we're going to trace over the entire page. And trust me, it doesn't have to be perfect. One of my favorite things about coloring on like a digital app is that you can erase as many times as you want to without ruining the page. Unlike if you're coloring with pen or marker, you kind of have one shot. So on this page we have 7 types of rest: social, emotional, mental, creative, spiritual, physical, and sensory. So social rest to me means decompressing with your loved ones. It's really important that you have a group of people around you that you can just be honest with. Like, you don't have to sugarcoat anything. Point of social rest for me is to revitalize, okay? So be around people that inspire you, that love you, they want you to grow. That is how I view social rest. A tip that I have for when you're drawing your line work layer is to actually lock the layer underneath the CocoWyo layer, just so that if you ever do accidentally slip and start drawing on the layer underneath, the app will prevent you from doing that, so you won't make a mistake. That's happened to me a few times where I'm coloring in one layer and then I find out that I'm actually coloring in the base layer. So the second type of rest we have here is emotional rest. Emotional rest to me means going outside in nature and regulating your emotions. Sometimes problems won't seem so big when you go outside and realize that, hey, the world is still spinning. You know, things aren't over just because there was a little hiccup. I just love nature so much, especially the sun. I feel like I always get revitalized when I'm outside, which is why I'm so lucky to live in a sunny state. I genuinely think it helps my mental health a lot more. Another good tip for emotional rest is to go on a walk or go on a run when you're feeling upset or angry. That always makes me feel a little bit better. So the third type of rest that we have here is mental rest. Mental rest to me means dumping my brain inside of a journal. So throughout my life, journaling has definitely helped me clarify my emotions and help me solve some of my problems. You don't have to journal a super long entry to get some benefit out of this mental rest. Sometimes I'll do a 3-line journal entry on really hard days where I just talk about what's heavy, what do I need today, and what's one step I can take to make myself feel better. Fourth type of rest we have here is creative rest. I find that content creation, the filming part, is actually very restful for me and fulfilling. Whenever I need a fresh idea, I'll go outside. It will oftentimes spark inspiration and creativity for me, so creative rest is also inspirational in a way. Or you can watch a movie at home. I am a big rom-com girl, so watching rom-com films just sparks my creativity. I love seeing the different styles of film, maybe get some inspiration from my own content. All right, moving on to spiritual rest. So this one for me is very personal. Spiritual rest for me can be praying, it can be going out to yoga. I think it's really important to schedule even an hour of time where you just focus on yourself, focus on your breathing. Meditation is also a really huge form of spiritual rest that I've been trying to incorporate into my life. I find that it actually calms me down and feeds my spirit in a way that the other types of rest are not able to. The sixth type of rest here we have is physical. So this might be a no-brainer, but physical rest for me is literally resting. So sleeping, taking a nap. Rest is actually your body's way of repairing. So it's really important to get good hours of sleep per night. I love to aim for 9 to 10 hours of sleep a night. It really makes me feel rejuvenated, which is the point of rest, is so that you can wake up and be ready to take on the day. On our final type of rest, we have sensory. So your 5 senses are sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. And so anything that stimulates those senses, I would say, is a type of rest. You can make yourself a cup of warm tea or hot chocolate. In this case, I'm thinking I'm gonna make this hot chocolate because that's one of my favorite drinks, while having a warm candle lit up, maybe something that has your favorite scent. My favorite scents for candles are something warm and yummy like vanilla. It just provides a type of comfort and rest that I need, especially after a long day. Now that you have your line work completely done, this is what it should look like. Again, I'll have it up on the screen, but now you're ready to color in the base layer. All right, so what you're gonna do is duplicate your line work layer and we're gonna rename it base color. This will just help make sure that all of your colors in this layer stay within the lines. And then I'm gonna grab the fill tool. It looks like a paint bucket. It'll make filling in sections of your drawing super easy. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill in my base layers, and I'll come back to you guys when we start creating designs. Now that the base is done, it's time to start the coloring techniques. I'm going to start with creating the wood grain material you see on like real life wood. So essentially I start off with my dark brown color. I'm going to grab a color that's a little bit darker than this one. And basically I'm going to create like squiggly lines and little rings to mimic the trunk of a tree. Not bad. I think it actually looks like a tree and it was really easy to do. Now I'm going to go in with the leaves. I'm going to take the coarse watercolor tool. I'm going to like dot the tool so that it looks like actual trees. We're looking like trees. The last thing I'm going to add here are little highlight details to look like leaves. I'm going to use a darker green color and a lighter green color to achieve that look. And for this one I'm going to use the fountain pen tool again. All right, we have our trees done. What do we think? I think from like a distance, it looks like the texture of a tree. I'm going to create a butterfly, and I have a reference here next to me for the butterfly wings because I'm going to do a gradient with 2 colors and then I'm going to trace it over with white. All right, and there we have our butterfly. I like the way it looks hyper realistic in a way, so I like it. Okay, so the next technique I'm going to do is the glitter technique. So this one's super easy. I'm going to pick the color that I have for this like little camcorder. I'm going to go into the color grade section and I'm going to choose a darker version of that color. And I'm going to add dots all around. After that, I'm going to add even darker dots using that same color grade. and then I'm going to go in with some white highlights and twinkles to make it sparkle. I think it's so cute, you guys. I love this shade. I think from far away it really does look like sparkles too, which is so nice. But I'm going to do the same thing with the flower vase down here, but I'm going to make those sparkles like yellow instead of this like coral color we have going on. This is what the final vase looks like, super cute and sparkly, and this is how the camera looks. The glitter technique is 5 stars. It was really easy to do, and I feel like it actually looks like the inspiration that I pulled from my favorite creators. So moving on to this blanket, I really want to do cheetah print, but I don't want to do just regular cheetah. I'm going to do pink and purple cheetah. I'm going in with my favorite light pink color, and I'm going to use the fill tool to fill in the blanket. I'm going to choose a purplish color to fill in the spots, and then we're going over the spots to define them. I'm going to put some hearts for my cheetah spots. And there we go, that's my cheetah print. I really like it, you guys. I think it actually looks like a cheetah or a leopard. I can't remember which print is which, but I love this, and it was super easy to do. I would rate this one a 5 out of 5. I think the hardest thing for me right now is choosing the correct color palette. Moving on to this blanket we have here for physical rest, I'm going to test out the patchwork design. If you don't know what patchwork is, essentially it's a whole bunch of different patterns stitched together to make it look like one print. They can be the same color, different patterns, or the same color palette, which is what I'll be going for. So I'm going to do different patterns, but similar color palette. Since I love pink, I love purple, that's what I'm going to stick to. The first step here for the patchwork design is to create the black outlines for your different patches. So I'm going to go in with my fountain pen tool with the dark color, and I'm just going to draw some random squiggly lines. Using the fill tool, I'm going to fill in the colors that I want. So this is the color palette that I chose. I'm actually going to leave these 2 squares on the bottom completely blank because I want to do the gingham pattern. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm quickly going to color the bed sheet underneath just to make sure it matches this design. So I'm going to do some pink stripes. I would say the patchwork design, 4 out of 5, okay? She's a little bit difficult if you don't know what pattern you want to use, but once you come up with a color palette, I feel like the stripes, the designs, the patterns are super easy to follow. I've finished this entire coloring page. I had so much fun doing all of it. I love them so much. If you guys have an iPad, I would definitely recommend doing this. This is just another one of the many things that my iPad can do, okay? Me and my iPad against the world, okay? Let me know how you relate to each type of rest. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give me a like, a comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!